Now, we've been reporting on the 860 Palestinians the Albanese government is bringing to Australia from the front line in Gaza. The opposition has expressed concerns over how security checks could have been done in such a short time frame.
The government would need to be very wary about bringing people out of, a very difficult war-torn environment at the moment. Ultimately, the Prime Minister's got to act in our country's best interests, and I don't believe it's in our country's best interests to be increasing that intake at the moment without certainty around who individuals are and the fact that they're going to, be perfect Australian citizens or as best as we can hope for. So I think that the circumstances and the conditions at the moment are precarious, and I'd be surprised if the government's considering that, to answer your question.
But the government was considering it. Now, Australia doesn't have a presence on the ground in Gaza, so it's not actually clear how the security checks were done. ASIO has previously said that checks like this in a war zone could take months.
People who are connected to terrorist organisations, who have committed crimes, obviously don't have a motivation to disclose that in the process. And so that's why our intelligence and security agencies, including ASIO, have quite robust approaches in how they test the propositions put forward and the information provided. They don't just accept it at face value, but they need time to do that. Duncan Lewis, the former Director General of ASIO, testified before a Senate committee in 2019 when he said that, in cases like these, it can typically take months to do that level of checking, to have that level of assurance. And obviously we haven't had months to do that for these cases, and it's a very large number. So I want to make sure that the Department of Home Affairs, at ASIO, that our agencies haven't been pressed, haven't been pushed to rush these through.
Now, you may remember that the Labor government kept it quiet that it was bringing people from Gaza here who weren't Australian citizens. It was the ABC that reported the story, and they quoted this Palestinian-Australian woman, Ola Aladasi. The ABC said that, and this is quoting Ola, most of these people come here without any documentation with them, without any money. They come from this very bad experience in the war in Gaza. We need help looking after all of these people. The ABC article went on to say that Ola Aladasi is awaiting the arrival of friends from Gaza and is also preparing a visa application on behalf of her nephew. So Ola Aladasi, who's appeared in other media outlets, confirmed she's preparing a visa application for her nephew and is waiting on the arrival of friends from Gaza. But if you have even just a quick look at Aladasi's own social media posts, it shows clearly concerning views, like this one, where she wrote, "When injustice becomes law, resistance becomes a duty." In another post, she seems to be celebrating martyrdom, saying that it's not a loss, it's a choice. She wrote, "Death is an art that only Palestinians master and no one else in the world knows how to die and why. The Palestinian is the greatest victorious loser in history." She wrote, "The Palestinian teacher of martyrdom, he raised to teach those too who thought that jihad must be with power, and those who deluded that victory is only a defeat over the enemy. He raised to teach them that martyrdom is not a loss, it is a choice, the choice of jihad and victory." Now, this is very concerning from someone sponsoring more people from Gaza who aren't residents or citizens to arrive in Australia, when we're already seeing very strong anti-Semitism in our cities, on our streets. We don't need more hatred imported into Australia. We don't need to be putting our children at risk from those who've been at the very front line of this conflict. Ola Aladasi didn't respond to our requests for comment either directly or through her employer. But then have a look at this woman, Laura Allam. She claims to be helping Palestinians arrive in Australia through her non-government organisation, AJF Org. But look at the extremist content that she has posted. Just about 15 hours ago, she posted a new update from Hamas. You can see that picture there. That's what she put on her Instagram page. She wrote, "Latest from Hamas resistance group." She wrote, "Al-Qassam brigades fulfills their promise to make Gaza a graveyard for invaders." And then this was worse. She said, "With Allah's help and strength, our fighters, along with other resistance factions in Jenin camp targeted the invading occupation vehicles with locally made explosive devices, resulting in confirmed injuries among the elements of the Zionist army. We will avenge the martyrs in Jenin and Gaza. In another post, she said, it is a jihad of martyrdom or victory. I mean, this would appear to be a terrorist sympathiser describing Hamas as a resistance movement. And this individual, who says she's helping Palestinians settle into Australia, is sharing Hamas content and propaganda online. We asked Foreign Minister Penny Wong for comment about this. Her spokesperson said that the Australian government does not engage any NGOs in providing consular assistance to individuals seeking to leave Gaza. People who obtain Australian visas are subject to appropriate identity, security and character checks. Well, that's what Penny Wong says, but there is now clear cause for alarm, or at least concern, about who the government is giving temporary visas to, along with who are the individuals who are sponsoring or supporting the Palestinians coming to Australia. What checks are being done to make sure that those coming to Australia share our values and aren't going to be importing any further hatred of Jews from the front line of the war onto our, they should be, safe Australian streets? Instead of signing Australia up to a biased United Nations motion demanding Israel stop its war against Hamas, Albanese should make sure he's protecting Australian citizens, make sure he isn't providing safe passage to Australia for Hamas terrorists or sympathisers. Is Home Affairs or the security agencies trawling through open source social media to make sure the 860 Palestinians flying here don't have terror allegiances? We have every right to question whether the Albanese government, under Claire O'Neill and Penny Wong and Andrew Giles, will be making sure that anti-Semites and those who celebrate jihad aren't being flown right into our major cities, especially when they continue to turn away from the exploding crisis of anti-Semitism happening now under their watch, and instead prefer to lecture Israel and ask it to retreat when it still has hostages held captive in dark underground tunnels.